The entire Israeli package was based upon Iranian defenses defined by S-300 type capabilities. S-300 is a Russian surface-to-air missile. The Russians just provided the Iranians with a significant number of S-400s. Together with sophisticated electronic warfare packages, going to jam the Israelis as they come in, backed up by Su-35 fighters. Now, here's the thing. How many Iranians have been trained on the operation of the S-400? I'll give you a quick hint. None. Who's operating the S-400 on Iranian soil? I'll give you another hint. The Russians. Who's flying the S-35s? Not Iranian pilots, Russians. So now Israel, to attack Iran, is going to have to go head-to-head with Russia. You think Israel wants to do that? You think Israel's ready to do that? Do you think the United States is willing to let them do that? Now, what is Israel going to bomb? Are they going to bomb the nuclear site? That's the end of Israel. Israel disappears that quick. You understand, the first Israeli bomb that drops on Iran, over 500 missiles will immediately be fired. These are solid rocket fuel missiles. You can immediately reload, fire 500 more within 15 minutes. That's 1,000 missiles impacting every strategic site in Israel within 30 minutes of the first Israeli bomb dropping. The Israeli airplane won't even be halfway home before his entire country is destroyed. That's going through the mind of Benjamin Netanyahu. You want to know why he didn't order the attack? Because he can't order the attack. He's got nothing to attack with. Iran holds all the cards.
Well, I would agree with Scott Ritter if this was just a conventional war on the ground only. Then Israel probably wouldn't be able to attack because, yes, Russia is directly involved. And now we know why. Because Russia is directly involved in defending Iran's airspace with the S-400s and they're flying the S-35s. Well, now we know why Israel is manning Iron Dome batteries inside of Ukraine, Kiev in particular. Remember that story here a couple of weeks ago, but it's not really being talked about anymore, is it? Because they're both quietly helping one another's enemies, setting all this worldwide Armageddon up to its final cataclysmic climax, I guess you could say. That's coming soon. And the return of Jesus Christ is coming soon. We're seeing it all being set up right now. But that's Scott Ritter's reality check for Israel. And for the most part, I'd say he's right. But he doesn't understand that we are in Armageddon right now, and the return of Jesus Christ is very near. Nonetheless, he's got a good breakdown on what's going to happen here when the war actually kicks off, and that's going to be soon. So let's just get right into it like we always do. Okay. Israeli tanks start to roll into southern Lebanon just after Donald Trump issues an ominous warning about World War III. Indeed. And this is news that, like Michael Snyder says here, we're at endingtheamericandream.com, by the way, and the author is Michael Snyder. Like he says here, he has no idea why this isn't getting more attention, because it should be. But it's probably by design as well. They want you distracted by everything else. They don't want you to see that Armageddon's unfolding in front of your eyes. Israeli tanks are literally rolling into southern Lebanon right now. When you send the tanks in, you aren't just conducting localized raids. This is a full-blown invasion, guys. Make no mistake about it. And Israel lost a lot of people here yesterday. We'll cover that in a minute. But a lot of people don't seem to understand that this is it. The IDF has initiated a ground operation in southern Lebanon. And according to Hezbollah, this means that there will be an all-out war. Yeah, they're going to start launching rockets like you won't believe now. And they did yesterday. In other words, we just crossed the point of no return. Indeed, we have. Interestingly, Donald Trump just told a crowd at a campaign rally in California that he was concerned that we would end up in a world war in the next few months, or maybe even the next few days. U.S. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump is worried that World War III could break out in the next 4 months due to the policies of the Democrats leading the U.S. government. It isn't just the Democrats, guys. I hate these left-right paradigm arguments because they're all false. But he says, I worry about the next 3 months. I really do. I worry about the next 3.5, 4 months that we will end up in a world war because of this. The people that we have in the government, he said at a rally at a state in California, in the state of California. The Biden administration has been making colossal mistake after colossal mistake in the Middle East. Once again, this is all by design. They're just following their Israeli orders, essentially, and the orders of the elites of the New World Order. People that, you got to remember, the Zionists are just puppets too. They're just pawns on the game as well. They're being used along with the rest of everybody else. The Muslims and the Jesuits and everybody, they're all just pawns in the game. Israeli tanks, they say, have burst through the gates of the United Nations peacekeeper base in southern Lebanon, the UN confirmed today. It comes after Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu demanded that the UNIFIL, that's the peacekeeping group from the UN, demand or withdraw from combat zones and Hezbollah strongholds and accused the UN of inadvertently providing terrorists with human shields. Of course, that's not true. In a statement addressed to UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, Netanyahu said, "The time has come for you to withdraw UNIFIL from the Hezbollah strongholds and from the combat zones." Of course, Hezbollah has been busy as well. Hezbollah fired missiles at 4 different Israeli military bases. Hezbollah claimed it had destroyed 4 military bases in Israel today as it launched a blistering rocket attack across the southern border. The Iranian proxy group said it hit bases at Al-Jarar, Zarit, and bases in the Golan Heights after claiming to have pushed back advancing forces late on Friday. Its fighters were targeting the explosive factory there with a salvo of missiles, according to the group's statement this morning. Then on Sunday, a massive Hezbollah drone attack injured more than 60 people in northern Israel. This is the one that really struck home, guys. I put a lot of these videos on Telegram. More than 60 people have been injured, several of them critically, in a drone attack in northern Israel, according to first responders. And it's actually more than that now. I don't know what the final count is now or what it's up to, but it's more than 60. It's in the 70s for sure and possibly more. But there were no immediate official reports of death from the attack. Of course, we know there were, but the high number of injuries reported makes the attack one of the bloodiest since the war started last October. This news comes after Hezbollah said Sunday it had fired a swarm of attack drones on an Israeli Golani infantry training camp in this town here, south of Haifa. The Lebanon-based militant group said the attack was in response to Israeli strikes in Lebanon on Thursday that killed 22 people and injured 117. Most Americans are not really paying much attention to this war yet, and most Americans don't seem to realize that we will be directly involved. In fact, it's being reported that approximately 100 U.S. troops will be operating the THAAD air defense systems that are being sent to Israel right now, and in fact, supposed to be there and start to get set up here tomorrow. So, from what I'm reading and what I'm seeing, and I'm going to show you here in a minute, as soon as this THAAD missile system is set up, which I don't know how long they take, okay, but let's just say they take a day or two to get set up. They're going to be there tomorrow on Tuesday. Then it'll be game on for the attack against Iran. Then Iran is going to follow up with, 500 plus missiles, as you heard Scott Ritter talk about. So the Pentagon, or on Saturday, we were among the first outlets to report that the United States is preparing to deploy THAAD, an anti-ballistic missile system in Israel, which is a major development which will put American troops directly in harm's way, or boots on the ground amid the tense showdown with Iran. The Pentagon, in follow-up statements to the New York Times, has confirmed that the THAAD, which stands for Terminal High Altitude Area Defense, that's systems will be sent to Israel, and that about 100 American troops will operate them. And we've got more than 100 American troops already in Israel, guys. They're just not talking about it. A lot of special forces there. But if Iran and Israel start lobbing thousands of missiles at one another, those troops will be very heavily involved in what's happening. Israel has promised to respond to Iran's recent missile attack, and that can unleash a chain of events that nobody will be able to control. According to the Daily Mail, the Iranians are making some very alarming threats. Iran has threatened to recalculate its nuclear weapons program if Israel launches a revenge strike, as Biden has insisted. Tehran is not building nukes. They don't have to build nukes. They've had them since 1992. I get so sick of this garbage of, they're going to build nukes. You better watch out. They're going to build nukes. That was just to keep the arms money flowing into the military-industrial complex and to the state of Israel. Because if there wasn't that threat there, then Israel wouldn't need our money, would they? We'd be able to cut them off. Hey, you don't need that money. Iran's already got nukes. What are you talking about? So you see what I'm saying? They had to keep that farce, that lie going. Iran has had nukes since they bought them from Kazakhstan back in 1992 after the fall of the Soviet Union. Everything was in disarray then. And everybody in the world was worried about what's going to happen to all those Soviet nuclear weapons. Well, some of them got sold to Iran. And God only knows who else, truly. Only God knows. Because I don't. And nobody else I know does either. But we know Iran got some. Well, pretty soon, both sides will be forced to reveal all their cards. Yeah, it's coming. And once that happens, everything will change. Yes, it will. Meanwhile, the Russians continue to gobble up more territory in eastern Ukraine. Russian forces have seized control of another eastern Ukrainian settlement, Moscow said on Sunday, and what it would be the latest in a string of games in the Donetsk region if confirmed. The Kremlin said on Sunday that its sent a group of forces had captured the Donetsk village of, I can't pronounce it, but there it is. Several settlements in Ukraine bear the same name, and Russia's defense ministry is likely referring to the village immediate east of Selidov, southeast of the strategic Ukrainian-held hub of Pokrovsk, where Moscow has been concentrating its efforts. And the Russians clearly have the upper hand at this stage. But I want to focus back to Israel before we get into Russian stuff too much. But after this big strike by drones that killed some Israelis and injured more than 70 at this point, it was the biggest strike in this war and that Israel has faced in a long, long time. What was Israel's response to that? Well, let's just take a look at that, shall we? Here it is. The number of dead and wounded Israeli soldiers, officers has risen to 70 in the Hezbollah drone attacks on the Golan Brigade base, according to Hebrew sources. And then we have Israel retaliates by torching Gaza refugee tents. And I'm not going to show you this video because it's pretty horrible to look at. I'll put the link up if you want to look at it. But Israel has turned this tent camp into a death camp, and they were burning people alive with their bombardments last night. So that's how they respond. The synagogue of Satan has no mercy at all. So now we have to ask ourselves the question, how significant is this U.S. THAAD deployment to Israel? Well, let's get into it. Something big is coming, and whatever it is now, there's a heightened chance that the U.S. will become directly involved. The Pentagon confirmed that it'll dispatch nearly 100 troops to Israel to operate one of its premier air defense systems, the THAAD, of which it only has 7 in total. This comes ahead of Israel's expected retaliation to Iran's latest missile strike on the first of the month that it carried out to restore deterrence after the assassination of Hamas chief Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran and Hezbollah chief Saeed Hassan Nasrallah in Beirut. Yes, so they were responding, guys, legitimately responding, according to the UN Charter itself, to an attack that Israel made to assassinate these people inside of Iran itself. I mean, they killed the Hamas chief who was in Tehran that day. So they're saying that, number one, Israel is probably planning something big. Rumors have abounded about what exactly Israel is planning, but it's probably something big and will provoke at least proportional retaliation from Iran. Hence why the self-professed Jewish state requested that the U.S. deploy one of its few THAADs to help defend it afterwards. THAAD specializes in intercepting ballistic missiles, so it can be intuitive that Israel and the U.S. expect Iran to respond through those means. THAAD only carries 48 interceptors, however, so it could be overwhelmed if there's a saturation strike. Indeed, it could. And Iran's got more than one nuclear weapon. And so it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. But Iran is going to use their nukes this time. Make no mistake about it. And as we know, the Iron Dome needs all the help it can get. As many observers asserted or assessed that Iran's latest missile strike exposed the limits of Israel's famous Iron Dome. The footage that they saw and Israel's panicked reaction afterwards in trying to cover up the damage, including by detaining Gray Zone journalist Jeremy Lafredo, and then investigating him for aiding the enemy in a time of war by reporting on it, leaves little doubt that this is the case. Accordingly, the Iron Dome needs all the help it can get, which is why Israel requested that the U.S. deploy the THAAD to assist them. Number 3, the U.S. risks getting caught in mission creep. Biden previously promised that no U.S. boots would be on the ground in the West Asian conflict zone, and he just went back in his word after the administration approved this latest deployment. Well, remember, Biden's not in charge, so to think that he is ludicrous. But the U.S. thus risks getting caught in a mission creep, since hawkish policymakers might now argue that it's worth scaling this deployment in pursuit of perceived national interest after this psychological line was just crossed. They might not succeed, and this could be all that's sent, but more deployments also can't be ruled out either. The THAAD team is an escalation tripwire. That's number 4. Building upon the above, the THAAD team is an escalation tripwire since any harm that might befall them while attempting to intercept Iran's expected retaliation to Israel's presumably forthcoming attack could serve as the pretext for the U.S. to strike Iran and or deploy more troops to the conflict zone. And keep in mind, too, in addition to this, guys, and the story I don't have pulled up here, Biden and Trump are both asserting that Iran is trying to assassinate Trump, and that if they try, and even if they fail, that the U.S. would then declare war, according to Biden. They would declare war on Iran, and he would persuade Congress to do that. Well, we'll see. But that's just another way that they're trying to escalate this into a war between Iran and the U.S. now, so that the U.S. is forced, its hand is forced then to assist in this attack on Iran. So expect more stuff like that to pop up, more false flags involving Trump. Anyway, while this move is being sold to the public as defending Israel and deterring Iran, policymakers nonetheless keenly understand what's really at stake, if they're downplaying the dangers to avoid public outcry. Number 5, Israel-U.S. ties remain strong despite problems. And finally, the U.S. THAAD deployment shows that interstate ties remain strong despite the well-known Bibi-Biden rivalry, which is WWE theater, in my opinion, which saw Biden endorse Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer's call for regime change against Bibi last spring. Whether one attributes this to U.S. permanent military, intelligence, and diplomatic bureaucracies, the deep state, still appreciating their perceived mutual geostrategic interests, or to the power of the Israeli lobby, the point is that it testifies to the resilience of their ties. Never doubt the U.S. Zionist-Israeli ties, okay? They're always going to be there. They're always going to be strong. They may pretend to disagree, and they may actually disagree about certain things that Israel may or may not do. But the bottom line is they're always going to support their buddy Israel. Now, the U.S. THAAD deployment to Israel is a worrying step because it suggests that something big is coming. And whatever it is now, there's a heightened chance that the U.S. will become directly involved. Whether its role remains defensive or evolves into an offensive one remains to be seen. But this team of nearly 100 operators essentially serves as an escalation tripwire. Hawkish policymakers want a larger war, and it'll take self-restraint on Iran's side and a little bit of luck to avoid that worst-case scenario. This is from Andrew Korobico's newsletter. He also writes on don'tspeaknews.com, or he'll send these to me and say, please post this if it meets your, if it meets your standards. And it always usually does. So there you go. It is very significant, guys, and it's definitely, like he says, an escalation tripwire. So, wow, it's just a matter of time as to when and where this really kicks off. And if you want to read more about that mass casualty event in northern Israel after the Hezbollah drone strike on the IDF, you can do that here at don'tspeaknews.com. I've also put up some videos from Telegram showing you the aftermath as they're evacuating IDF troops out. And here's a whole bunch of ambulances lined up. Found these on Telegram here yesterday. And then here, the choppers coming into airlift somehow. All that much more here, guys, on don'tspeaknews.com. I've got some maps from Twitter posted up here as well in regards to this particular Hezbollah strike, which was quite devastating for Israel. So this attack comes amid heightened tensions in the region, with many expecting a retaliation by Israel against Iran. And that's what we're going to get into here next on Hal Turner Radio Show, as he's got some new intel for us. And first, we'll talk about Iranian leaders going into the bunkers. So out of concern about an Israeli strike, the Iranian president, Pezeshkian, and will soon enter the strongest bunker in the world, alongside Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. Israel claims it has a right to retaliate for Iran's recent ballistic missile attack, where they launched about 200 ballistic missiles from Iran into Israel. But like Hal says, Israel does not have any such right because the missile barrage was a response to attacks made earlier by Israel itself that we just covered here. Those assassinations, for one thing. Then Israel blew up a building in Tehran to assassinate that Ismail Haniyeh, like we just talked about. That detonation of a bomb to kill a man on Iranian soil was in and of itself an attack upon Iran. And under the UN Charter, Article 51, Iran had the right to strike back. Hence, Israel has no right to respond as it hit them first. But nonetheless, they're going to do it anyway. So Iran has made it explicitly clear that if Israel strikes them again, they're ready to respond within 15 minutes, and that response will be massive. And it'll go after Israeli infrastructure, power plants, water processing plants, bridges, military bases, etc. They're not holding back the next time, guys. The nukes will be flying too, especially if they strike the Iranian nuclear facilities. Like Scott Ritter said, Israel will be gone shortly after that. So the U.S. has made it clear it will defend Israel, and it's sending that THAAD system that we've already talked about. The U.S. admits it's sending 100 troops to operate that system, and Russia and China said they will support Iran. And you heard what Scott Ritter said in that opening segment. It's not Iranian operators that are operating the S-400s in Iran. It's Russians. And the Russians will be flying the advanced aircraft as well. Well, they're training the Iranians, but they won't be trained in time for this battle. So now the pieces are all in place for the opening salvo of a massive war beginning as early as tomorrow. So Hal Turner's opinion is why Israel feels it must respond now is anyone's guess. Well, I'll tell you why, Hal. It's Armageddon time, and this is actually God's plan, not theirs. I'm just going to stop there. You guys can read the rest on your own for yourselves. I'll put the link up like I always do. And then we're going to look at one more thing here on Hal's site before I go. The covert intel, which a lot of this is on Telegram. So now Netanyahu, as we know, the American THAAD system is arriving tomorrow, Tuesday. Netanyahu is to meet with ministers and security chiefs tonight. It's not known what time tomorrow the THAAD will arrive, likely the wee hours of the morning. And it's unknown, like I said, how long it will take to actually deploy and set up. Likely just a few hours of travel and setup. I would imagine it won't be long. So based on what I'm hearing out of Israel, as at 10:01 Eastern this morning, it appears to me the Israeli attack upon Iran will happen tomorrow. I would say tomorrow or Wednesday would be my guess. Iran has made it explicitly clear that if they're attacked by Israel again, they will respond perhaps in as little as 15 minutes. And with a barrage that will devastate Israeli infrastructure, power plants, bridges, I would say their nuclear facilities, everything in Israel will be hit. The U.S. says it will defend Israel. Russia and China said they will side with Iran. And Iran has stopped indirect talks with the United States and Oman. They said for the time being, the Muscat process has stopped because of special situation in the region, according to Iran's foreign minister. He said, we do not see any ground for the talks until we can pass the current crisis. Hal Turner says, it's starting to become clear to me that we don't make it to the November election. Today is the federal holiday, Columbus Day, so all the banks are closed. Of course, you can still get cash from the ATMs, and the stores are still open if you need some preps. 10:26, there's an update here Eastern Time. Prime Minister Netanyahu and his military secretary unexpectedly exited today's government meeting just minutes after it began. No official explanation has been given. It seems something urgent is going down, and then Netanyahu returned to the government meeting 90 minutes after leaving abruptly with his military secretary. A few minutes later, he stepped out again. Still no details provided, likely classified. So they're huddling in the corners about something during this meeting with security chiefs. So we'll just have to keep our eyes on it, guys, and be prayed up and prepped up at all times, like we always talk about. Okay? The power went out here, or at least I thought it did. We had a surge yesterday morning. And when the fans shut off and everything was super quiet in the apartment here, I thought, oh, here we go. Did the EMP hit? What happened? And then the power came back on right away. So it's just a surge. But nonetheless, it makes you think because of the times that we're in. All right. Don't forget, don'tspeaknews.com, home base for everything that we do, in case you're not watching the video here. But yeah, this is home base for everything that we do. If you'd like to subscribe and contact me, just hit the subscribe tab here. And then here are the two emails to contact me at. And then here's the subscribe box right here. You just type in your email here. You click on subscribe, and then every time I put up a new post or video, you'll be notified. Channel support, we're listener supported only. I want to thank everybody who has supported so far this month. It has meant the absolute world to us, and the timing has been absolutely perfect. We have a wish list, by the way, which I've got listed in here too. This buymeacoffee.com wish list. It's this last tab right here, this last link. I want to thank several of you who've sent money so I can get a new office chair. That office chair has been ordered and it is on the way. And the ironic thing of that was when you know God's hand was involved, was that I thought I knew I was close to having enough money to purchase it. So I went to Amazon and I looked it up. And lo and behold, it was on sale for 20% off. And it had almost exactly within $1 of the exact amount that I needed to buy the chair right then and there. And so I just did. I ordered it and it's on the way. It'll be here a week from today. So thank you guys for supporting the wish list as well. There's all the different ways to support the channel right here. I'm desperately in need that office chair too, guys, because it's well, all the hydraulics on the two that I have here are shot and they're quite old. So it's definitely time for a new one. It's been time for a long while, but I just finally got around to putting it on the wish list here about a week or so ago. And to go to the wish list, you just click on this link here and I'll show you the other thing I've got. It is Microsoft Office for the year. That's the last thing I've got on here for now, because it also gives me access to all of their stock footage for videos and the ability to edit more and use text and so on. And so it allows me to make more and better videos for you, along with everything else Microsoft Office has. And that's how much it costs for the entire year. And I've got it on my other computer, but now I'm using the new one, or the new used one here. So now I need it on this one, and I can't transfer it, unfortunately. But anyway, that's the last thing on the wish list for now. Just wanted to make you guys aware of it. Thank you so much for fulfilling the chair for me. And that will be it for now. Prayed up and prepped up at all times, guys. We don't know what's going to happen today, tomorrow, or the next one. So God bless, take care. Johnny Storm, Don't Speak News.